SNIT's response comes after Norton MP Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa petitioned the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice (CHRAG) to investigate and stop the sale of 6 hotels, including Labadi Beach Hotel, La Palm Royal Beach Hotel, Elmina Beach Resort, Ridge Royal Hotel, Busia Beach Resort, and the Trust Lodge Hotel to the Abetifi MP. Mr. Ablakwa's petition to CHRAG seeks an investigation into various allegations, including conflict of interest, abuse of power, and lack of due process, procurement breaches, chronism, and graft. However, SNIT, in a response, explained that the decision to collaborate with an investor is to raise capital to invest in their hotels and assist their management, started as far back as 2018 through international competitive tendering processes as prescribed by the Public Procurement Act. In a press release, the trust stated that the process started in November 2018 after it had employed a transaction advisor to guide the process of a strategic investor, amongst others.
During the week, I have been serializing further documents which should give credence to what organized labor is talking about and more. You know that my strategy has been never to put out all the documentations. There's still a lot more we'll be putting out in the coming days. And if you look at an earlier transaction, details of which I have put out, the 2022 purchase of Kumasi Catering Hotel by the Rock City Hotel,
Catering Guest House.
The Catering Guest House, which is now called the Grand Regency Hotel. So SNIT has 25% shares in that hotel. I have, over the last few days, put out details of that transaction, the minutes, the final minutes of negotiations, dated 16th March 2022, the meeting chaired by Mr. Kofi Osafumafu, Deputy Director General. And it's interesting that virtually all the documentation I have from within SNIT, Mr. Kofi Osafumafu is the one who's been leading all of this.
He's in charge of investigation.
Yes, and he appears really trigger happy about these transactions, and is now set to seal the deals as the Director General, with his boss having been disgracefully removed. Now, if you look at the facts of the 2022 transaction, you see that the 25% shares of SNIT, valued at 8.6 million, that is not the value that Rock City bought it at.
How?
From the minutes, and indeed I have the final confirmation, the payment from Rock City.
The evaluation was done in cedis.
It was done in cedis, yes.
Okay.
Now, if you read the 16th March 2022 minutes carefully, you see that Mr. Kofi Osafumafu reveals that their independent valuers have brought their figure of the 25% shares. It's 8.6 million. Then, during the meeting, they indicate that they would like to peg that figure to the dollar because of how the currency is depreciating. Rock City refused. They then also said that, why not make sure that payments are done according to the prevailing exchange rate? Rock City refused. If you read the minutes, it's as though Rock City was the one calling the shots. Now, what is shocking is that eventually they allow Rock City to agree to pay 7.4 million. So ab initio, Ghanaian workers, SNIT, loses 1.2 million. Because 8.6 million.
But did the minutes tell you why they agreed on a figure below the valuation figure?
The minutes, as I have indicated, you see Rock City just really calling the shots. Say, no, we don't like this. We won't do this. We will not accept this. Take, for example, Mr. Chum's insistence that they peg this to the dollar. And Mr. Samuel A. Chum is General Manager, Investment and Development, SNIT. Page 2 of the minutes. provides. Mr. Acheampong followed with a suggestion that the sale price should have been in United States dollars and pegged at the current dollar rate to the cedi. This was declined by the Rock City team. He further insisted on his earlier submission, arguing that the Rock City Ghana makes an offer in US dollars. This was again declined.
That's negotiation. Everybody's seeking their interest.
Yeah, good. So who is seeking the interest of workers? And
SNIT.
who is,
SNIT should be.
And why should SNIT not be insistent? So when we make the case that looking at the track record, the unholy alliance between SNIT and Rock City, we don't have confidence that there will even be value for money, apart from the fact that fundamentally, Rock City, the Honorable Bryan Acheampong, should be nowhere near this transaction.
If you have a city minister or public officer of any who is basically whose business is involved with the state in any kinds of transactions, it already raises an apparent conflict of interest that has to be cured. Now, because we don't know the information that has been provided or yet to be provided, it's very difficult to assess whether that conflict of interest has been cured or not. So, and then we have also been interested in the decision itself to sell the hotel. Because one of the hotels, everybody knows that Labadi Beach Hotel is a profitable, well-run. So if SNIT is already benefiting from it, why is SNIT deciding that it wants to divest 60% of its interest in Labadi Beach Hotel? And to what effect? What is the plan? If they get the money, what are they going to use it for? And I think pensioners in Ghana have to be interested in these kinds of investments. So there's the issue that you have a state official, a high-ranking one, even if he was not a government official, he's a leading member of the ruling party. That already makes him a politically exposed person.
The sale came to light after the National Democratic Congress Member of Parliament for North Tong, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, raised an alarm about it. While the union has tried to justify its decision to sell its stake in the hotels, organized labor says these properties were for the citizens and SNIT was only managing them. Head of Civil and Local Government Staff Association Ghana, Dr. Isaac Bampo Ado, said SNIT has violated various investment guidelines and that the union will not relent in its effort to halt the process.
We want government to know that these funds are not government funds. These funds are pension funds. And pensions are guarded by the Act 766. We have investment guidelines under Act 766. And clearly, these guidelines have not been followed. Government should be aware that we will not allow them to play chaskele with our funds. Should they dare go ahead, it will be the mother of all strikes in Ghana.
Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Dr. Yao Ban, called for the immediate cancellation of the sale.
The process was flawed. Our reps on SNIT board were very clear in their demand that for a number of reasons, the process be halted. But from all indications, it appears the process is going on. And in fact, they are even speeding it up. And we don't think that is right. We do not think that the regulations that guide the sale of state assets were followed. We do not think that the necessary due diligence was done.
Meanwhile, the Member of Parliament for North Tong, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, has petitioned the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHRAG, calling for an investigation into various allegations, including conflict of interest, abuse of power, lack of due process, and procurement breaches of Article 766 by the Social Security and National Insurance Trust.
I'm very, very happy that organized labor has added a voice, and if you're listening to the communication, you could see some seriousness in what they are communicating, and I think that they mean what they say, because they said it's a last warning. One of them, I think the CHRAG rep said that they were not going to allow government to play chaskele with pension funds. And so this is good that it has come up. It's now before CHRAG. I think that CHRAG must go into it. They must do a good job when it comes to conflict of interest issues. They should really address it properly, not as they did with the Ken Bond issue. Because, look, issues of conflict of interest, the Constitution is very clear. It's not just about real issues of conflict of interest. In fact, perceived and likelihood of conflict of interest. That's what the Constitution says, if you read Article 286. Likelihood of conflict of interest should even be a matter of concern. That public officers should not put themselves in a position where their personal interest is likely or will conflict with their public functions.
It is not untoward.
Yeah.
It is not untoward for a member of parliament or a minister to hold an office for profit.
Yes.
It is not untoward.
Yes.
Processes has to take place.
Yes.
And once those processes are complete, there's nothing wrong with it. So the fact that he's buying and his hotel is acquiring this interest in these assets, it's nullified. The other point Broja made was that
What nullifies it?
that as if it's untoward for him to hold an office for profit. He needs to go through processes, and once those processes are complete, there's nothing wrong with him holding an office.
The petitioner is that has not been done. Are you
I am not too
disputing
sure.
it?
You see, there's a committee in Parliament that determines all of it.
Yes.
There's a committee.
Yes.
I am not too sure about the information available to Honorable Ablakwa. I am not even too sure whether he belongs to that committee. I'm not too sure. So, but what my point is that, and what I want your viewers to know, it is not out of place for a member of parliament or a minister to hold an office of profit, so far as the processes that he has to go through are done.
Look, SNIT owns Aluworks. You know Aluworks?
Yes, Tema.
Yeah. We all know
They still own it?
Yes. We all know the situation with Aluworks today. They are losing money. So they are losing pension funds as we speak. SNIT used to own HFC with Bank of Ghana and SIC. They've divested the shares, and now they just have a little bit of it. It's now Republic Bank. SNIT is now making money after they divested the shares, the controlling shares, and now they are making money from HFC, now Republic Bank. Do you know, you remember the Trust Bank?
Yes.
It used to be owned by SNIT.
Yes.
They were losing money, big time. It was bought by EcoBank. SNIT divested the shares. Since EcoBank bought Trust Bank, they've been paying dividend to SNIT. When they have controlling interest, MOM, they don't make money. It's when they divest their shares and to a majority shareholder and get some 30%, then they get dividends. They shore up pension funds. Look, you take LAPAM, since SNIT bought it from the original group. They spent over $50 million in buying the place and all of it, and the investment. They haven't gotten 2 cedis from LAPAM as we speak. So pension monies is being lost. So the case that some pension, my friend from AE would not allow pension funds to be toyed with, and would not allow Chaskele, my good friend, was saying, it is like rather SNIT is losing money through this sale. No. The records show clearly that these businesses are costing the pensioner monies. LAPAM, Elmina, Busua, even Labadi. Labadi was losing money up to 2017. Then they changed the management and brought in some local management. But even Labadi if you look at the return on the investment, it's not much. Even Labadi. But for the rest, they are losing money big time as we speak. So pensioners' money is being drained. And when you look at the record of SNIT divestment of its shares, they are making monies from the divestment where they don't have controlling shares. So this business about they are toying with pension funds and they are playing Chaskele is neither here nor there. And when you look at the record of SNIT divestment from HFC, Trust Bank, Merchant Bank, SSB, right through, you see that they started making money when they gave away their controlling shares. Now these hotels are losing money. It makes sense that they divest controlling shares. So what is the issue now? The issue now should be, how is the process managed? And the person who bought it. Let me look at the person who bought it first. Now, Samuel Kujato also says that it should not be bought by a politician. I am neutral in the matter once the process is fair. Because politicians engage in business, don't they?
Yes.
They engage in business.
Yes, if they follow the...
Yeah. So politicians are allowed to do business. It is not a crime.
Once they follow due
Once
process.
they follow the due process.
On Inside Pages here on Metro Television. My name is Aldo Moroth. We have been in the last 10 or 15 minutes been playing you excerpts of what to expect on the show this morning. As you do know, one of the biggest and a raging controversy this week has to do with the intended sale of some 60% of SNIT assets to Rock City Hotel Ghana Limited. And that has brought in its wake a lot of conversations about public policy, about investment analysis, about conflict of interest, due diligence, etc., etc. Now, Rock City is owned by a cabinet minister, that's Mr. Bryan Acheampong'S. Mr. Bryan Acheampong'S is a Greek minister. He's also the member of parliament for the BTF. And so then people raise issues about a potential conflict of interest. Why does it have to be his hotel, Rock City Hotel, and so on and so forth? As we speak, CHRAG, who has been petitioned by the Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa, has actually responded to his petition, and they've actually asked that they're going to be inviting all the parties involved to sit and look into the matter to really establish whether there's a real conflict of interest situation or it's actually just perceived. So that is one of the issues we're going to look at. And then the second topic that we intend to look at on Inside Pages is that finally the president has released the KPMG report that he did on SML, the contract that he has with the Ghana Revenue Authority, and the Fourth Estate's petition to, to the OSP, and also to the president to actually release the report. The president initially said he wasn't going to release it because of some constitutional, he gave some legal basis. Now the president has released it, so then the question is, why now and what has changed? So we'll look at all of that, of course, if there's time, because it looks like the SNIT conversation is going to take a lot of time. But let's see, if we have time, we'll look at the SML report and some issues that have come up with that report as well. My name, once again, is Aldo Moro. When I come back, I will be introducing my guest, but it's raining out there, so please stay safe. If your area is not is not in good shape, please stay at home because the flooding situation out there is very serious. I'll take a short break. I'll be right back. All right, so welcome back. This is Inside Pages on Metro Television. Let me just say that let me advertise the WhatsApp line for those of you who would want to join us this morning to have this to express your views on these two vexed issues. So they are very important, extremely important matters that bother on national development. 0249155646, 0249155646, 0249155646. So check that out, and exactly, so you can see that on your screens. Those of you who would want to join this conversation by expressing your thoughts. So joining me in the studio this morning are persons who are more than capable of discussing this issue. I have the Member of Parliament for the Boku Central constituency, the Honorable Mahama Ayariga. You do know that he's also a lawyer, and he's been a former cabinet minister in different portfolios, and so he knows exactly what he's talking about. Honorable, good morning. Thank you very much for...
Good morning, Moro. Good morning.
Thank you so very much.
It's a pleasure being with you this rainy morning.
Thank you. It indeed has been very rainy, and it hasn't been easy for some of us to come out of our houses or our homes. So that's why I'm saying stay safe there. And also let me say that I have the very prominent communications team member of the ruling MPP, that's Enoch Anshere Afuakwa, who's also joined us this morning. Good morning, Enoch.
Good morning, Moro.
Thank you so very much for joining us.
Very good morning to Honorable Mama Yariga.
Right.
Good morning.
And let me also say that we'll be joined via Zoom, Professor Lord Mensah, who is an economist and also a finance lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. He's also joined us via Zoom. Prof, good morning.
Good morning, Moro, and good morning to our viewers there.
Thank you so very much. And let me also say...
my co-panelists in the studio.
Right, that's wonderful. Let me also say that Dr. George Domfe is also a development economist at also University of Ghana, Legon. Doc, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, my brother.
It's a pleasure, sir. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and good morning to everyone. Good morning to those at the studio.
All right. Okay. So I'll start with the Honorable Mahama Ayariga. Now, I don't know what you make of this. I mean, SNIT, in their estimation, felt that some of the hotels that they have stakes in, 6 of them are struggling, per the estimation. They need some capital to be injected, some efficiency, the new ownership, fresh blood, fresh everything. And so they put it out there for persons who are interested. They did what they call the international competitive bidding. And then, Rock City applied, and amongst other, other companies, about 9 of them or so. It was whittled down to about 6. Rock City eventually turns out to be the best. According to SNIT, Rock City had submitted the best financial and technical, document or proposal based on which they intend to finalize a deal with them. And then the Member of Parliament for Northern Samuel Ablakwa, chanced upon this transaction, and he decides to petition CHRAG about it. I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, again, good morning to you and to our viewers. And I don't know if you are also on radio.
Oh, no, it's just TV.
Okay, just TV. Okay.
Yeah.
So just our viewers.
Right.
Well, the problem with our country is trust and confidence in officialdom.
Right.
Increasingly, the state and its apparatus have proven themselves time and again very inefficient managers of businesses.
Right.
And so over the years, there has been a trend towards privatization, which is essentially selling of state assets to private sector, including businesses set up by the state.
Right.
The idea is to enhance efficiency and etc. And so this is not the first time that a state asset is going to be hived off and sold to private sector persons. The issue is always how you go about it. And in this instance, the issue has also become who is it that you are selling it to?
Right.
And it's been extensively discussed. I'm sure the facts are known to everybody.
True.
and many have already formed their opinions and judgment of the matter.
Right.
Somehow I think that of the many perspectives that have been looked at and analyzed, a very critical perspective has been missed. And for me, that is what I intend to raise this morning.
Right.
SNIT is established under the National Pensions Act of 2008, Act 766.
Right.
Specifically, Section 32 of it deals with SNIT, 33, 34, 35. They all deal with the issue of the functions of SNIT and etc.
Right.
And you know that SNIT has been there for a long time, so this legislation only continued it in existence.
Right.
Now, when SNIT takes public money or pensioners' money, basically, and invest it, the idea is to have enough asset base so that in future when the pensioners have retired and they are looking for their pensions, SNIT has the capacity to be able to pay.
That's true.
Recently, we've seen actuarial reports that warn us that going into the future, SNIT might actually not be able to live up to its
by 2036
obligations.
You're talking about the ILO report.
Yes, to pensioners.
Okay.
And so I think that SNIT must, as much as possible, rather retain its asset base, that will generate for it more income in the future, or at least just have an asset base that puts it in a stronger position. Good. Now, what are we talking about? We are talking basically about the management of hotels.
Right.
That's really what is an issue. The management of hotels. The hotels have been constructed. They are being managed. I've seen some reports that my colleague, Honorable Okujoto Ablakwa, has put out. And he has been able to establish, and I'm waiting to have that refuted by SNIT, that all in all, the hotels so far have been profitable.
Right. With exception of La Palm Royal Beach.
Well, with the exception of La Palm Royal Beach.
Because La Palm is struggling.
But all in all, the hotels have been profitable.
That's a fact.
Good. Now, so the basis and the argument for divesting a public entity of those assets is fundamentally flawed.
Right.
Because they are profitable.
Right.
With the exception of one.
Can they be more profitable?
Good. Can they be more profitable? That leads me to my second analysis.
Okay.
And if you recall, I said, look, we are talking about the management of hotels to make them profitable.
Right.
I travel a lot. I stay in hotels a lot. You know that in this day and age, there are chains of hotel managers that manage hotels all over the world.
Right.
Brands like Marriott, brands like Kempinski, all those big brands that you see do not necessarily own the hotels themselves.
Right.
Okay? But people build hotels, and because they know that these brands are very efficient and capable managers of hotels, they sign off their assets to these managers who will brand the hotel in their name and then use their chain of efficient managers across the world. And the systems that they have put in place, both to promote the hotels, to market, to sell rooms and beds, and to run very efficient restaurants.
Right.
They have hundreds of hotels across the world. And they are looking for more to join their chains.
Right.
La Palm Royal Beach Hotel is a big hotel, strategically located. And I believe that it is one of the hotels that will easily find its way into one of the big brands.
Right.
Who will be able to probably change its name, use their brand, use their management, use their systems that they have developed that effectively markets their rooms and markets the country and make the place more profitable. So if the issue really is the fact that you want the hotels to become more profitable. And those that are not profitable, you want them to be managed profitably so that you can make more money. There are models that have proven very effective in achieving this.
Okay.
The model of selling it off is indeed the last option that you should be considering.
Right.
The model of selling it off is the last that you should be considering. The model of inviting efficient managers is your first step. And yet, the SNIT people have not told us that they have even considered that model and that they have tried it in any way. So for me, fundamentally, the decision to sell it off is wrong.
Right.
And it is because you have better options and you have not exercised those options. That is making people to say, look, there has to be an ulterior motive to what you are doing.
Right.
Especially in a setting and under the aegis of a government that has become notorious for seeking to strip the state of every single asset that we know it to own. I mean, starting from PDS, starting from the lands that we have, starting from anything that you see. Today, you go and you check and you see that the government is trying as hard as possible to sell it off to usually cronies and favorites and etc. And so once you have a better model to solve the problem and you don't exercise that and you opt to sell it and to sell it to somebody who is a sitting cabinet minister, no matter how justified his claim to the asset will be, you leave room for people to really question the judgment.
Right.
Now let me come to the real issue that for me we should be looking at.
Right.
First is...
Now, before you continue with that, if SNIT had showed you documents, some, how do you call it, value for money analysis that went into the decision to sell, would that change the analysis you just made about which is that there are different models? Why go in this direction?
Yes.
If SNIT had given you some value for money analysis, convincing one, why they need to sell rather than get somebody to manage it, would that have changed your view about what you just said?
I don't see any possible value for money analysis that
will make a stronger case.
That defeats the argument about SNIT keeping the asset
and getting somebody to manage it.
Getting competent managers.
You think so?
That's my position on the matter.
There's absolutely nothing.
I think that SNIT must keep its assets. Because look, you are already being threatened with your asset base going down to such an extent that in future you might not be able to pay your pensioners.
Yes.
That threat is looming.
Okay.
And you are having problems managing a hotel.
Okay.
It's not as if you are looking for money to inject into SNIT. You see, when you are looking for money to inject into SNIT, then you can say, okay, I want to sell my assets in order to make money.
Right.
Okay? In the past, when the state has been involved in divestiture, there's been two considerations.
Yeah.
One, finance ministers are looking for money to pay salaries, to invest in education, to invest in healthcare. The tax revenues are dwindling, and etc.
Yeah.
So one of the options is to sell state assets.
Okay.
Make money, but then also benefit from more efficient management because the asset is still within the economy.
True.
Okay? So absent the issue of efficient management, the only major consideration that you can do a value for money analysis for me and convince me is that, look, we're hard up, we needed money, and we need to sell this asset.
That would make sense to you.
That will make sense.
Okay.
But SNIT is not saying that they are hard up and they need money. None of their statements, reveals that.
I get that.
The only thing that they have said officially is that they want more efficient management.
Yeah.
And they think that if they sell it off to a private person, he will do better. Without really, to be frank with you, seeking to undermine the competence and efficiency or effectiveness of my colleague, Honorable Bryan Acheampong. Apart from, what city is it?
Rock City
Rock
Hotel.
City. I've never visited the hotel. I hear it's a big edifice in the eastern region. Is that okay?
Hotel, yes.
Apart from that hotel,
yes,
show me a chain of hotels that he has managed efficiently.
So you're talking track record.
Yes, what is his track record in the
Rock
management
City has
of
been in
hotels?
existence for just 5 years.
It's been in existence. I don't even know whether he has finished the construction, because in the past 5 years, I've heard that he's been constructing it.
He's expanding.
He's expanding.
Yes.
Well, and nobody has even taken time to do an analysis of the profitability of his own hotel to convince us that, you know, he's such an efficient manager of hotels that if he takes our state hotels in addition to his hotels,
yes,
he will do so well for us also, the way that he's doing well for himself.
I get that.
You know?
I get that.
So you can present a good bid, and a good bid is relative to the other bids.
True. So, for instance,
a good bid is relative to the other bids.
So, can we see
who are the other bidders?
Yes. Can we see the other bids?
Can we see the other bids?
Yes. What they are offering.
What they are offering. Okay. So, for me, fundamentally,
so then it raises the question:
decision is flawed.
Should that have come to Parliament?
Well,
that's another matter.
I'm going to that next one when you brought me back and asked some
about
more
the value for money.
questions.
Yes, the value for money.
You asked me about the value for money. The first fundamental question is: has SNIT gone according to due process?
Okay.
Because I see that the matter that has gone to CHRAG appears to be about
due process.
Not due process, about whether or not some bias informed the choice.
True.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Not necessarily due process. Due process also raises fundamental questions of legality.
True.
Can SNIT sell the asset? That's for me the fundamental. Can they sell the asset?
Why can't they?
What is the legal basis for selling the asset?
Okay.
You see, in the past, state assets could only be sold through the functioning of the Divestiture Implementation Committee.
Right.
Later on, we passed the State Interest and Governance Act in 2019, SIGA. And then we brought all the state corporations and entities under SIGA. Is that okay?
Right.
Now, the question is, if SNIT decides to sell a state asset, essentially it's a state asset.
Yes, it is.
It's an asset owned by a public entity. Is that okay? So if SNIT decides to sell a state asset, what is the proper legal process involved in divesting the state of its asset? Have they followed that? For me, that's the fundamental question that needs to be asked before CHRAG even starts asking the question of, you know, whether or not there was a bias or whatever informed it, whether it was a conflict of interest, and etc. Can SNIT today, in the face of State Interest and Governance Act, and in the face of the National Pensions Act of 2008, can SNIT just sell an asset?
Right.
I have looked at this legislation, and I do not see where the trust and the governing board of the trust can just sell off an asset simply because they say it should be sold. I haven't seen. They have to come and show me which provision says that, well, we can sell this. Because Section 32 of it, 33, 34 thereabout, deals with the issue of they managing investments.
Okay.
To manage, first to take a decision to invest and to manage the investment. Is that okay? And to manage the investment based on policy approvals issued to them by the Pensions Regulatory Authority.
Right.
Okay? So your investment framework and policy, SNIT, the governing board of SNIT, the trustees, must present a policy framework on how they intend to manage their investments.
And this is a public policy framework.
Yes.
It's a public, it's a state.
Yes.
It's a state asset.
Yes. To the Pension Regulatory Authority. Because they are the regulators now of SNIT.
Right.
Then the State Interest and Governance Act is also interested in all companies that the state has invested in. And SNIT is a state institution.
Right.
And it has invested in these hotels in the form of a company. So SIGA is also interested. Now, in all the discussions, I have not seen SNIT tell us that in order to do this, we did a due diligence on our capability under the law to do it. And then we've gone through all these processes and gotten approval from this or from that.
Right.
The only thing that I see is a statement to the effect that we went through procurement process to procure a transaction advisor. To advise you on what? To advise you on how to sell.
To guide the process.
To guide the process. But the only thing the transaction advisor hasn't told you is the laws governing how you go about the process. you know.
Interesting.
So for me, I think that fundamentally everything here is flawed.
Okay.
It's not a simple question of whether or not conflict of interest exists because Bryan is a minister of state and etc. and etc. I don't want to go into that because for me to really be fair to Bryan, I must have records of the bits. I must have evidence of what went on, and then I must establish that there was some bias in his favor.
Okay.
And we have to be fair to everybody. The fact that we are politicians doesn't mean that we lose every right to get involved in private business.
Yeah, but that
so that's something that we must be careful about. So I just focus on, can SNIT even do what it has done?
Fantastic. I'll come back to you on that, Honorable Ayariga. And the issue you raised about whether politicians or public servants are totally and absolutely stopped from doing business with the state by acquiring shares and so on has been a matter which has been, been with us for a very long time. I still recall the Nsawam Cannery and how the First Lady's decision to buy it created all kinds of problems. The MPP at the time held all kinds of news conferences and they complained, they lampooned, and had serious issues with that. I can give you a tall list of, times when some of these issues have come up. And I think that perhaps as a country we may have to sit down and have a serious, honest, and dispassionate conversation about this matter. Anyway, that's really not the main thrust of our argument now. But let me go to Enoch. Enoch is with the MPP's communications team. And let me also say that Professor Lord Mensah and Dr. Donfe, please give us just 5-10 minutes. Once Enoch lands, I'll come back to you guys. So, where do you stand on this? I mean, there are people who say that the NPP, which has complained in the past about public officials, wanting to have a stake. In fact, you've mentioned about a stalwart of the NDC, what's the name? How do you call it? Mr. Atuahoy, and some 15% shares that he bought way back, I think in the 90s or so, in some SNIT investment, trying to justify why there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, do you feel that the issues that have been raised by Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa and the NDC are fair or they're valid?
Yeah. Moro, let me say a very good morning to you once again. And use your...
And sorry, before you go ahead, let me just say that the hotels we're talking about here are Labadi Beach Hotel, La Palm Royal Beach Hotel, that's a La Palm Royal Beach Resort, and then there's Elmina Beach Resort, Ridge Royal Hotel, Busia Beach Resort, and the Trust Lodge Hotel. So that's where the hotels that initially Ablakwa said were being hived off. 60% of it were being hived off to Bryan Acheampong'S, Bryan Acheampong'S Rock City Hotel. But there's actually a SNIT statement. I wish I could read the SNIT statement before Enoch comes in. Can we look at the SNIT statement briefly? Can we look at the SNIT statement briefly before we come to Enoch? Okay, so, but the four hotels in question are Labadi Beach Hotel, La Palm Royal Beach Resort, Ridge Royal Hotel, and Elmina Beach Resort. So they pruned it down from 6 to 4 because there were issues with the two. Ablakwa raises the issue about the two being left out because they were in such a bad state that Rock City Hotel didn't want to acquire them. So they raises the issue about why are the four being hived off if indeed the same logic, which is that it wasn't doing too well. So let's look at the SNIT. So he said the trust is seeking so SNIT responds to Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa's comment on sale of hotels. Now, one, the trust is seeking to partner a strategic investor to raise capital to invest in the hotels and also assist in their management. Two, their primary objective of finding a strategic investor is to increase efficiency, profitability, shareholder value, and in the long term, sustainability of the SNIT pension scheme. Three, accordingly, SNIT went through international competitive tendering ICT processes as prescribed by the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663, as amended by Act 914 for the selection of a strategic investor. And then number 4, the trust commenced the process with engagement of a transaction advisor through ICT method of procurement, with publication of advertisement in the Daily Graphic on 14th November 2018, in the Ghanaian Times on the 15th November 2018. The advertisement was also published in an international magazine, The Economist, in its January 5/11/2019 edition. 5. As of January 16, 2019 deadline, 15 firms had expressed interest in submitting bids. Of these, 6 were shortlisted and issued a request for proposal, RFP document. 6. Approval was sought from the Central Tender Review Committee for the selection of a transaction advisor on the 12th of December 2019, and that was granted on 24th December 2019. 7. Following the selection of the independent transaction advisor to guide the selection of a strategic investor, amongst others, further investment for an expression of interest for a strategic partner for the SNIT hotels were placed in the Daily Graphic on 3rd February 2022 and in the Ghanaian Times on 7th February 2022. The advertisement was also published in the Economist magazine 26th February 2022. 8. A total of 9 companies responded to the advertisement by submitting proposals on the 23rd March 2022 deadline. 6 out of the 9 were then shortlisted and issued with requests for proposal document. 9. The qualifying firms were invited for the opening of the financial proposals based on the technical and financial evaluation. Rock City Hotel emerged the best. 10. Based on the criteria set out in the RFP, Rock City Hotel submitted the best and strongest technical and financial proposal amongst those received. Consequently, it is in negotiation with SNIT to buy a 60% stake in each of the 4 hotels: Labadi Beach Hotel, La Palm Royal Beach Resort, there's Rage Royal Hotel and Elmina Beach Resort. Bids for Busia Beach Resort and the Trust Lodge were considered to be unsuccessful, so they are no longer part of the hotels covered in the process. 11. The process of getting a strategic investor in its final stages and therefore not yet concluded. 12. It was mentioned on the Metro TV discussion that the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice has been petitioned to conduct a full-scale investigation into the sale of SNIT hotels. And then 13, given the impending investigation by CHRAG, management of SNIT will not comment further. SNIT will cooperate fully with CHRAG throughout its investigation process. SNIT further wishes to assure pensioners, contributors, and the public of its commitment to managing the affairs of trust prudently for the sustainability of the pension scheme. Enoch, what do you...
Thank you very much, Moro. And let me use your platform to extend the greetings of His Excellency the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, and his Vice President, who is also the leader of the New Patriotic Party, and ideally the President in waiting for the people of this country come December 7, 2024. I know he'll be elected and will be sworn in effectively on 7 January 2025 to serve the good people of this country because he represents the future. And we believe it is possible with the proposal that he's going around and sharing with the good people of this country and discussing with major stakeholders as far as the fortunes and the future of our country is concerned. So I wish Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia very well in his bid to become the president. And based on his policies, I endorse him that the people of Ghana should vote for him come December 7, 2024. Tomorrow, the issue of a state entity, SNIT, divesting its assets to interested private investors has become a raging issue throughout the week, stemming from Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa's social media posts on 17th May 2024, pointing accusing fingers on an individual, Honorable Dr. Bryan Acheampong'S, who is supposedly a member of the Rock City Hotels Company or something. He's a member.
I heard him on one of the reputable platforms said he's 100% shareholder, but he's a non-executive director. That's why. So he said he doesn't take a penny from the organization.
The reason I'm saying that he's a member,
right?
Because shareholders are members of the company.
Okay, fine. Oh, that's where you're coming from.
Certainly.
That's fine.
So far as he's a member.
Okay.
And you see, I wonder why Dr. Bryan Acheampong'S name is being mentioned in this whole enterprise. Because basic company law, Honorable Mama Ayariga is a senior lawyer who attests with that. Basic company law posits that a company, after incorporation, is a separate legal personality distinct from its shareholders, the debenture holders, and it has the power to sue and be sued in its name. It has the power to transact. is as the powers of a natural person. Being it as it may, the Companies Act of 2019 Act 992, under Section 18, clearly defines this position that I am enumerating right now on your show. So if Rock City, as a limited liability company, incorporated under the laws of Ghana with the powers of a natural person to transact businesses in any form as the constitution of the company prescribes, enters into an agreement or whatsoever to transact with a state entity, where lies the mention of a name, Dr. Bryan Acheampong, because he is a shareholder of the company, not the managing director of the company. You see, it baffles my mind.
According to Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Bryan Acheampong being 100% shareholder, benefits ultimately from how the company fares. I mean, if the company is making profit, it goes to him. If he's making losses, it goes to him. So he may not necessarily be in charge of the day-to-day administration or management of the company. But 100% shareholder. If he makes profit, it comes to him. If he doesn't make profit,
it doesn't matter the number of shares.
That's the counter argument he makes.
No, it doesn't matter the number of shares that one holds in an entity.
Okay.
Being it at whether 1% or 0.5% is shareholding.
Okay.
When it comes to profit sharing or dividend sharing,
okay,
you receive dividends in accordance with your shareholding.
Absolutely.
When there's liability, you have to offset your liability in accordance with the amount of shares or the number of shares that you are holding in that entity.
Okay.
So if he decides to hold 100% shares in that entity, it means that when there's liability, he takes over the liability 100%.
I'm not sure about if you're an ordinary shareholder. I mean, there are preferential shareholders. There is ordinary shareholder. The ordinary shareholders don't take losses. Preferential shareholders, that's why they get more preference, even when it comes to how much shares they can buy and so on and so forth. So that's just my layman understanding of some of these things. So I mean, let's just be careful because we are not
going into the nitty-gritty of it.
Exactly.
What I want to establish is that Rock City is a separate legal personality with the powers of a natural person transacting business.
That's a fact.
So then we can interrogate the affairs of Rock City, whether Rock City is competent enough.
Okay.
The issue here is that whether Rock City is competent enough to take over the assets of SNIT and manage it to the level of profitability as the statement from SNIT is stating.
So your issue is the focus of the conversation should be whether they can. Capability, capacity. Track record.
Okay. Absolutely. To be able to manage that effectively and efficiently.
Okay.
For the purpose in which SNIT is divesting those assets.
Right.
2, the issues being raised by Honorable Ayariga as to whether or what there are procedural improprieties with regards to the whole transactions that is going on.
Right.
And from the statement that has been read, it tells you clearly that as far as the procurements are concerned, SNIT went through the strict procurement process in accordance with the procurement laws of this country, i.e. the Act 663, stating the first when they published sometime in 2018 for transaction advisors, people who are interested in rendering services in the form of transaction advisory to SNIT, as far as their assets relinquishment were concerned and those kind of things.
Right.
Certainly, the statement you read gave us a detailed account of the whole processes. And I am overwhelmed that in Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa's claim that procurement breaches, abuse of power, lack of due process, and a whole lot shows that the statement clearly indicts Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa on misrepresentation because he has misrepresented the facts as he put out clearly. Because the statement seeks to respond to his allegations that has been made. And clearly, it amounts to misrepresentation completely. What is the abuse of power in it? It's not under the Ministry of Agriculture. Clearly, SNIT is not under the Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry of Agriculture has no supervisory jurisdiction over the affairs of SNIT. Clearly.
So again, sorry for cutting you, but the counter argument again is that Bryan Acheampong is a cabinet minister. And in his view, as a former cabinet minister himself, he says he would ordinarily expect that such a major transaction would never have happened if he hadn't come up in cabinet meetings. So again, in his view, the fact that he's a cabinet minister alone puts him in a pole position, puts him in a very good position for him to acquire the stakes using his company. I don't know whether you get my drift. So he's talking about his position as a cabinet minister.
You get me when I get to those issues.
Sure, please go ahead.
The issue that he's clearly enumerating raises two questions, brings to bear two questions.
Okay.
Influence peddling and conflict of interest.
Right.
On the matter of conflict of interest, that's why I'm clearly stating that he's not.
You mean Bryan Acheampong is not Rock City? Rock City is not Bryan Acheampong. So today, if there's no Bryan Acheampong, Rock City survives.
Absolutely, it has perpetual succession.
It has a going concern.
Exactly.
It's a going concern.
And secondly, in terms of the ministry that has supervisory jurisdiction over the affairs of SNIT, Ministry of Agriculture,
certainly not Agric Ministry. Yes.
Certainly, Mr. Bryan Acheampong is not part of the board of directors of SNIT or the trustees of SNIT.
Yeah.
Again, so where lies these issues that you are propounding? Where lies these issues? Procurement breaches, SNIT has responded positively in terms of how the processes are ongoing and even confirmed that they have not settled on, although Rock City posed as the investor with the competent bid, but they have not concluded with the transaction.
Right.
So it means that even the process as it stands is not conclusive.
Yes.
Again, the procedural impropriety that he's alleging, stemming from the press release enumerated, from the selection of transaction advisors to the publication for people interested, investors to also come in or express their interest and those kind of things, were all done in the glove of the public through international competitive tendering processes. These are strict requirements under our Procurement Act.
Okay.
So, in bringing in Dr. Bryan Acheampong, it smacks of a partisan political agenda that people just want to do.
Okay.
Like Honorable Ayariga said, politicians in Ghana, are they stopped from doing business? Our politicians are stopped from doing business. The provision of the Constitution that Honorable Acheampong cited, that I have checked, under Article 78(3) and under Article 98(2), where lies ministers of state not to put themselves in position of
conflict.
Come again?
Conflict
of interest and those matters. Clearly comes in hand here. That if you want to do business or engage yourself in an entity that you profit from, you need to notify as a member of parliament, you need to notify the speaker in writing and those seek approvals from the speaker in those.
Yes.
And this is where the man says that he is not an executive director, meaning that he is not part of the day-to-day running of the company. If he wants to be part of the day-to-day running of the company, certainly I stand to be corrected. He might need a clearance of the speaker to be able to engage in that enterprise. So all these material things or constitutional provisions that we are enumerating fall short with regards to the issue at hand on the matter of SNIT divesting its 60% assets in these 4 hotels mentioned. Initially, there were 6 hotels, as you clearly stated. Yeah. But the statement tells us that Rock City failed to meet the standards of the bid for the Busunya Beach Resort and the other one, the Trust Lodge Hotel.
Yes.
That they failed to meet the standards of those bids.
Right.
So, in turn, it is only the 4, that is Elmina Beach Resort, La Palm Royal Beach Resort, and Labadi Beach Resort and Ridge Royal Hotel. And in Ridge Royal Hotel, I believe Mr. Atuahoy, like you mentioned, also holds a minority share.
15%, actually.
A minority shareholding in this.
Yes.
He's a private person. It's a state asset.
Yes.
How then did he come in to also have shares in this asset?
Yeah, but he's not a public office holder.
At the time he procured those shares.
No, he wasn't.
When was that?
He's always been an influential member of the NDC, but not a public office. He's never held any public office in any NDC administration.
But if you want to do clear conflict checks, his brother was in government, true or false?
Yes.
So if you want to come on the score of influence peddling and those kind of things, to bring rope in that because his brother was also a cabinet minister, it is through his efforts that he also was able to buy those shares out of the state entity, then Social Security and National Insurance Trust. But we cannot be doing this.
But aren't we overstretching it? I mean,
no.
We're talking his brothers, this, that.
No.
I mean, here we're talking his direct.
No, you see, once you are doing conflict check, you spread your tentacles. Once you are doing conflict check, you spread your tentacles. If you are doing influence peddling, you spread your tentacles. Are you getting it? Who got what for who? How did this person get this? That is why we are going to the extent of going to cabinet, that because Dr. Bryan Acheampong sits in cabinet, he's a cabinet minister, probably this matter would not have gone through without even cabinet approval or cabinet blessing. I have not cited any statement where like cabinet approves of this whole transaction or whatsoever. It is a purely corporate governance matter.
Yes.
That I believe the board or the trustees of SNIT, as a separate legal entity, although it belongs to the state, have board members that manage and direct the activities of SNIT on the basis of law. Because as directors of companies, you owe a fiduciary obligation to your company to act in utmost good faith towards the companies.
Yeah.
And whether the laws of SNIT, the act that establishes SNIT, mandates them or enjoins them to be able to transact, do what they are about doing, as clearly Honorable stated, is what we must go through and interrogate, rather than bringing innocent people, innocuous people who are transacting their legitimate businesses.
Yeah.
Honorable Ayariga mentioned that when you visit other countries, you see some brands. Kempinski's, he mentioned other fledgling hotels and hospitality industries in advanced countries because of their brands and marketing their brands and making profits out of their brands. Why can't we also equally do same as a people of this country? Indigenization of local industries and local Ghanaian entrepreneurs. I am told that Dr. Bryan Acheampong'S hotel, Rock City Hotel, as we have been mentioned, is the largest hotel in Ghana. And it is being built in phases.
Right.
And even with the first phase of the project, they have almost about 800 rooms or so. 1,200 rooms.
Yes.
And they plan to establish or to expand Rock City.
The vision is to have 10,000
rooms.
Yes, capacity, yes.
Putting all these hotels that belongs to the state together, how many rooms can we think of?
Okay.
And a private person, a private individual, a sole shareholder of a limited liability company, having invested this quantum of money in establishing this entity, a fledgling entity, don't we think it is a brand that, when given the needed support, it can also grow to become the leading brands and project the image of Ghana, i.e. taking care of capital flight? Because when he makes money, when Rock City makes money, they will not repatriate their monies outside the shores of this country. The monies will stay in this country.
Right.
And our city that is depreciating will also have some respite as far as these matters are concerned.
Okay.
I will not go in for an international brand like Honorable Mama Ayariga is citing. It is better, if not for politicking, to be able to build the capacities of people who show the potential that they have the can-do spirit, that it is possible, given the necessary infrastructure and support, they will be able to develop themselves and make Ghana proud, whilst retaining and employing the teeming unemployed Ghanaians in this country to be able to make ends meet for themselves and be able to also transfer their technology, their innovative entrepreneurial spirit to the good people of this country, so that we can all learn from it. And
let me do this. I can see that Mama Ayariga has written quite a lot about. I'm sure he has a lot of responses to give based on the submission you've just made. But Honorable, I'll be very interested in, because you're a member of Parliament. But the good thing is that you're also a private legal practitioner, you're a lawyer. So help us appreciate, for instance, Article 78.3, 98.2 of the 1992 Constitution, where there's talk about you have to do diligence checks from Parliament Committee on Office of Profit, and then you have to apply to be able to get permission from the Speaker of Parliament to hold an office of profit and so on. I would need you to help us bring some clarity to that, because if you listen to what Bryan Acheampong is saying, where he says, I'm 100% shareholder, I'm a non-executive member, I'm not in charge of the day-to-day management of the hotel, and so I don't fall under the category of persons who must be seeking permission from the Speaker of Parliament. I don't belong there per his reading and an appreciation of the law and what he's been told and so on. I'd really want you to bring some clarity on that. But let me go on the line and speak to Professor Lord Mensah and also Dr. George Domfair. Dr. George Domfair is a development economist, and also Professor Lord Mensah is a lecturer in finance, but also an economist. But before I continue with that, let me also state that some of you have asked me to repeat the the WhatsApp message. So it's WhatsApp line, 0249 155 646. 0249 155 646. So that's the WhatsApp line. Now, Professor Lord Mensah.
Yes, Moro, I'm here.
Yeah, so you put something out on Facebook, and there were many who felt it was quite an interesting viewpoint. You say, I think that the attention has been diverted from the core business question on the sale of SNIT shares in the hotels to Rock City Group. Let's not place too much emphasis on the conflict of interest and the legalities of a sitting MP and a minister involved in the case. The question is, does it make business sense for SNIT to offload its shares in a hotel asset recording 90% occupancy rate? Comes with a question mark. Okay? And you say, SNIT must answer this question to the satisfaction of its contributors. Contributors as fund owners, right? SNIT board must understand they represent contributors and decisions must serve their interest. We need management contributors forum to discuss the way forward of SNIT as recommended in the ILO's report. The board cannot continue to take decisions and be exposing the fund to political risk. We need a business case for offloading the shares. Simple. You care to throw some more light on this?
Yes. So, true. You see, when an entity which is business oriented wants to offload its shares, obviously it has to make a case. SNIT, as it stands, being a fund management agency, has a strategic portfolio holdings. And the question I ask myself is, have they revised their portfolio holdings? And of course, if you are managing pensions, we talk about diversity. We talk about diversification, a situation where you will not keep all your eggs in one basket. And so for the business case, I'm expecting to see a paper by SNIT management, the board, indicating that with the situation we find ourselves in, we are not getting the necessary profit as expected from the real, business asset we are holding, like the hotels. And as a result of that, we want to divest, our shares. You don't end it there. You go further to give us options. So in the current state, what is the numbers telling, management and possibly reflecting in their books? If they should go by an option of procuring management, expertise to support in managing, how would the profit look like? I mean, that is talking about a special purpose vehicle to handle, the part of hotels, the part of the hotel that SNIT is holding. And then also looking at divesting the shares as we are currently discussing now. So these are options available, and each option must be presented by indicating the possible profit and the cost that will go with it. At the end of the day, we should be able to determine which one is more viable in terms of their, net present, value. Then in that case, they've made, a business case to convince, contributors. Tell them that, yes, indeed, they are managing. But then before procurement, you see, we talk about procurement. If you go into the SML, report from KPMG,
yes,
they will tell you that, look, there's something missing in our procurement laws. That's what we call the needs assessment. The needs assessment, I'm not saying SNIT cannot divest its shares. And I've given you, the processes, making a business case. Again, are we looking at, the market conditions at this time? Is it the right time to offload your real assets if you are holding shares in real assets in your portfolio? Now, if you offload the shares, are you going to improve your liquidity? If you improve the liquidity, the funds available, how are you going to invest them? Is it in government bonds? Government bond that has done, DDEP, that the market is illiquid. The market is now limited to treasury bills. And so where would the SNIT be investing its diverse inflows when they lay off these shares to another, investment? So from where I sit, I'm looking at a business case that will convince us And before the procurement, you may have to do needs assessment. And the needs assessment is when you consider the market, you consider the conditions around, selling the asset. Of course, the valuation, they've done it, using international input here and there. But the question is, have they reviewed their portfolio strategy that will accommodate, the selling of shares in, the real assets they are holding, which is the hotels. So I think there's more to do. And all these things boils down to the gaps we find in our laws, and then especially the procurement laws. And I made mention of the SML report, which emphasized on needs assessment missing in the the process of acquiring SML's services. Now, if you come to SNIT, if you divest the shares, the rest of the shares that are being held in the hotels, is there any agreement with the purchaser that will determine how you monitor and evaluate the performance at that level after you have divested? So after the procurement, what happens? So effectively, I would say that yes, indeed, we've sold off the assets. Preparing to sell the asset, but the processes of making a business case, and especially when we have an ILO report, which talks about SNIT engaging its constituents, to ensure that they communicate with them, and especially when we've gone through an economic dynamic that people are not sure of their future, investments, returns are not certain. It's better anytime you want to take a decision of that sort, you engage your, constituents, which are the contributors or the fund owners. So you tell them these are the options. And that is where you present the business case to them for them to, accept which option will be best. And as management, you convince them with numbers, not just, report that came from, what do we call it? Ernst & Young report that came from, other, auditing agencies that talks about the hotels that SNIT is holding, not performing. And as a result of that, they want to act on it by divesting, the shares that they're holding. And as we speak now, in terms of, the timing of the market, the best option to have in your investment holdings is real assets. Assets that you easily have control over, the funds. And so in terms of, the timing of the market, I would say it's a wrong time to divest your interest in, real estate, business like hotels. So we may have to be careful, as to how we parade this. And that is why in my, write-up on X, I indicated that we need a business case. And for that matter, that's the business case I'm talking about.
I see. Let me bring in Dr. George Domfe, who is a development economist on this matter. Doc, thank you very much for, again, joining us. You have stayed on patiently whilst you've been listening and, taking, analyzing some of the things that have been said so far. I don't know whether you have any opinions you want to share now, because I have a question for you. Do you have any preliminary comments you want to make?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother. I think quickly I want this clarification. So reading through what SNIT brought out recently, I get the impression that they are going to retain 40% of the stake. Right. Am I right? Yes. So it's not an outright sales.
Yes.
Listening to my colleagues, it appears that they are doing outright sales, and I want to get that. I want somebody to educate me on that.
We don't have.
Again,
Doc. Hello, Doc. Can you hear me? What we don't have clarity on is whether all these 4 hotels we're talking about, SNIT owns 100% or they own just 60%. We don't have clarity on that. Yes, it is possible. There are some of the hotels that are wholly owned by SNIT, and some of them SNIT just has 60%. We don't have those, granular details. When we do, we share. But let's go with the fact that SNIT just has 60% and they want to offload it. Let's proceed based on that.
And again, Amoro, let me chip in here.
Okay, please.
In my submission, I mentioned post-procurement monitoring and evaluation. That tells you that I'm assuming SNIT is not holding, it's not offloading the entire shares they're holding in this company.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Therefore, they still have interest in there.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that clarity is important. Say, Doc, please come in.
Okay, so then I will quickly say that another thing that we didn't hear much, let me say that my colleague Lord Mensah talked about it, the injection of the capital, the needed capital. The earlier two speakers didn't talk much about the capital. It was as if the whole, arrangement is about strategic, managers. So we are looking for people to come and manage what we are already managing that is so, profitable. They never mentioned the needed capital. And so my other question is that, is it that currently they are having liquidity challenges and they need to inject more capital, more liquidity to make the hotels more profitable? That also hasn't come out clearly, and I need clarification on that in order to build my point, please.
I see, Doc. So the NPP rep here, I'm talking about Enoch Afuakwa, he makes a point that yes, he agrees that there may be other models that could have been looked at. As the Honorable Muhammad Yariga said, get a management consultant, as we've seen happen to most of these, reputable hotels around the world, to get them to come and manage it. That's what they do for a living. Yes, he agrees that could have been done. But even with this sale that we're talking about, we should be looking at the far-reaching economic benefits that it brings to SNIT as well. SNIT wants money so they can expand on some other businesses that they have. It's still good for us. You are development economists. Do you agree with those who say that perhaps SNIT could have looked at another model, which is a model which most of these lucrative or reputable hotels are doing, which is they get management experts to come and manage these hotels, because somebody wants to own a hotel but they don't have the expertise to own it, to manage it. They get somebody to manage it, and over a period of time, they make profits for them and so on. Or you also think that, yes, even though that wasn't done, this model of selling off or hiving off the shares to somebody else to buy and raking in the money instantly and using that to expand the other businesses of SNIT, it's also something that perhaps is good for us.
Yes, I'm not too sure I'm well placed to, make a statement on this. Why I'm saying this is because we are talking about the whole process went through international competitive tendering, and during this process, an independent transaction advisor, and I'm sure this person might be very competent, and he might be somebody who knows a lot about more about these models that we are all putting out there. And so I don't think that they went in for very incompetent independent transaction advisor. And so if the process got up, was able to identify very independent, very competent independent transaction advisor, then all that we are talking about, this person is supposed to know. And I want to believe that when they said that Rock City came out as the best, then it means that out of all the models that they put out there, they were able to bring out the best that they were, looking for. Another thing that is not too clear to me is what were the models. So we sit here and we are conjecturing. We are mentioning that they could have done A, B, C, D, but we don't really know the criteria with which the independent transaction advisor used to select Rock City as the best. For all you know, most of these models that we're talking about were discussed extensively, and out of that, they saw that this is what is the way to go, and Rock City does better with this particular model that we want to go with. And so most of the issues are not too clear to me, and I do not think anybody knows so much about them until maybe the independent transaction advisor comes out clearly to tell us the criteria he used, and what made Rossi City the best? In terms of what? Was it in terms of the provision of the capital that they are seeking to rake in, or is it because of the management that they have? They have the expertise, unique expertise in management, for which reason they were the ones selected. And so I think we need answers for all these in order for us to be able to determine whether or not this was the right course of action. Otherwise, we will all be, throwing our arms in the air without catching anything, because these so-called models that we've talked about this morning, we don't know whether they considered any. But if you would allow me, I'm not so happy with something happening in this country, and I think we all, if we really want to build a good country, if you all want to develop, I think we need to come together as one front. Yeah, because this NPP always been that when NPP is in power.
Okay, so I guess that we have a challenge with this connection, and Dr. George Domfair is a development economist. Unfortunately, we haven't...
Hello?
Yeah, Doc, yes, I can hear you, Doc. I can hear you. Please go
Hello?
ahead. Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I'm saying that very unpleasant development that we are witnessing in this country is that when NDC is in power, white is white. As soon as they get out of power, white becomes red to them, and the same applies to MPP. I do not think that is right, because we were talking about the hotel Ssnit has similar facility in Cape Coast that as we speak, the minority shareholder is one top ranking NDC person. I do not want to hear that he wasn't a cabinet member. He was a leading member of that political party. He has influence. He does with the president. He talks to the president any other time. So he has all the influence. And so if at that time it was good, then I may also want to say that what is happening is good. And if it was bad, then what is happening today, we can also, it is bad. We can't defend what happened some few years ago, almost the same thing. And I'm also told that if you go to Tamale, there is this Tamale guest resting house. That's a top ranking member of, MPP, NDC, also bought from Ssnit when they were in power. And today, we sit here to make it appear that what we are seeing today, has never happened. But similar or almost something that is the same has happened not so long ago. And so if it was very good at the time, what makes it bad at this time? And this is what I have been talking about, the political animosity and coloration of crime. Politically, it's becoming too many, and we need to tread cautiously here, because my understanding is that, and we always often say that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. And in this country, the development is the grass. If we don't take care, grass will continuously suffer, because we are always fighting for our political interest, but not the interest of the nation. If indeed it was right that Mr. Atuahoe could become minority shareholder in a similar asset, then why is it wrong today?
Well, Dr. George Domfair, you see, the issue here, if you read the petition of Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, his issue is not about politicians necessarily buying shares in state assets or taking some ownership in state assets. Actually, the crux of his issue, or the crux of his argument, is that when you are a public office holder or a former public office holder, you have no business going close to any state asset. That's his problem. You can be an influential politician, that's fine. But once you are a public office holder or a former, for instance, I think about some 15 years ago, must have been 2007 or 2008, he took the Honorable Jacob Echebe Lamte may his soul rest in peace, to court over some cantonment, I think must have been rich assets that he intended to buy. Of course, the court ruled in favor of Jacob Echebilamte. It must have been 6-3 or so. But it's a certain principle he says he's been pursuing, and he's been consistent about it, that once you are a public office holder, don't come anywhere near close state asset, because if everybody says they want to buy this state asset, there won't be anything left for the ordinary Ghanaian. So that's his argument. As for somebody being influential and somebody not being influential, it's neither here nor that's really not the matter in issue. I don't know whether that then changes your position about what you said about something that's happening in our body politics, where anytime politicians get close to state asset is a problem. Does that change that position, or you still stand by what you're saying, Doc?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I still stand where I am, because my brother. If indeed it is bad, and that is what why we have MPs. That's why we make laws all the time. 1992, the Constitution. We've always been adding on. We have so many acts, over 1,000 of them. And so, if we think that it is not good, and that a politician cannot get closer to a state asset, let us all come together. Then we make a law that would, in future, prevent any politician from getting closer to anything that belongs to the state. Until that is done, then it becomes a problem.
Not just a politician, but a public office holder, sir. A public office holder, a former public office holder.
Yeah. So all of them. So what prevents, in all these years that my honorable member of parliament, Okujeto, is my best friend, in all these years that he has been at parliament, if this is what he's been fighting for, what prevents him from initiating a bill so that in the near future, public office holders, politicians, and all that cannot get closer to anything that belongs to the state?
All right.
Until we come out with a law that clearly prevents any public office holder, be it somebody like me, Joe Dunfe, or any other individual. This what we are currently doing in the next 2-3 days, we're going to see the same thing, because I remember during the PNDC days when people were selling state assets, we made a lot of noise. And it has always been like that. Almost every 2 years, a year, we do hear the same things being told, the same story. Except the only thing that changes is that the person who bought it, once he's in government, he will defend it. And once the person is in opposition, then it becomes bad. So if we think it is not something that we like, why don't we think of maybe Honorable Ayaga will educate me on this. Why don't we come with a bill? Why don't we initiate a bill so that we prevent all these things from happening in the future? So nobody, Jordan Fair, nobody can get closer once you were a politician or a public office holder. You cannot get closer to anything that.
All right, thank you so very much, Dr. Dunfe, and I think you've made some very interesting points. I know Professor Lordman is also coming quickly, but Prof, I'll beg you, please hold on, because the Honorable Ayariga wants to come in. But let me just say that we actually intended to do 2 topics. So we wanted to also treat the KPMG's report on SMR, which has just been released. It's a very voluminous report. We haven't finished reading it. And so maybe we'll shelve it for today, so that we'll have enough time. Honorable, what do you think, Enoch? So that we have enough time to deal with it next week. We can do it next week when we come. So because we all need to read it before we come here to talk about it. So I have the permission of the Honorable Member of Parliament to shelve that topic for today, so we can finish with this SNIT issue, have enough time to do it. So, Prof, I know you want to come in. Please hang on a minute. Honorable Ayariga wants to quickly chip in something, and then Enoch, and then you come in. Honorable, what do you want to say?
That we are missing the point.
Okay. Oh, sorry, we need to take a short break. I beg you. My producer just said we need to go for a break. I beg you. Honorable says we're missing a point. He's going to tell us the point we're missing. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. This is Inside Pages on Metro Television. It's 0249-155-646. I've seen some of the messages. I'll be reading them shortly. I do have the Honorable Member of Parliament for the Baku Central, a private legal practitioner. That's Honorable Mahama Yariga. I have Enoch Afuakwa, who is also here. Anshere Afuakwa is also here, member of the MPP's communications team. Professor Lord Mensah is joined us via Zoom, of course, that's digitally. And also as Dr. Domfair. George Domfair is also a development economist, also a lecturer at University of Ghana, Legon. And so it's a very packed house. We're looking at the SNIT's intended sale of its 60% assets to Bryan Acheampong'S Rock City Hotel and all the controversy surrounding it. Different perspectives have been shared. But there's a very interesting one which the Honorable Mama Yaraga wants to draw attention to. So yes, you see we're missing the point.
Yes, when I listen to almost all the people who contributed,
yes,
they seem to take it that what SNIT said in its statement. Go back to paragraph 3 of SNIT's statement.
Please bring it back. Derek, please bring back the SNIT statement. Please do that quickly. Paragraph 3, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Derek, please, let's have the statement.
In that paragraph.
So it says, accordingly, SNIT went through international competitive tendering processes as prescribed by the Public Procurement Act, 2003.
Yes, sir.
As amended by,
for the selection of a strategic investor.
Yes.
That is wrong.
Why?
That is a lie. That is untrue. Because the Public Procurement Act deals with the procurement of goods and services. Is that okay? Procurement of goods and services by entities where what is being procured is going to be paid for from public funds. Procurement of goods and services. When you are looking for a strategic investor into your business, it is not through the Public Procurement Authority. So fundamentally, SNIT is wrong. I have it here. Let me read it to you for the purposes of the education of the public.
This is very interesting.
Section 14 of the Procurement Act says that this act applies to A, the procurement of goods, works, and services, financed in whole or in part from public funds, except where the minister decides that it is in the national interest to use a different procedure. B, functions that pertain to procurement of goods, works, and services, including the description of requirements and invitation of sources, preparation, selection, and award of contract, and the phases of contract administration. C, the disposal of public stores and equipment. Disposal of public stores and equipment. And D, procurement with funds or loans taken or guaranteed by the state and foreign aid funds, except where the applicable loan agreement, guarantee contract, or foreign agreement provides the procedure for the use of the funds.
Interesting.
So the pretense by SNIT that they went through international competitive tendering under the Procurement Act is totally wrong and false. So what I'm saying is that we are talking simply about the sale of a state asset. Fundamentally, that is what it is about, the sale of a state asset. It's not a procurement. The sale of you're not procuring a strategic investor under these laws because these laws don't make provision for procuring a strategic investor.
So does that sort of...
So that statement is wrong. So SNIT has misled the public, it has lied, and if it hasn't lied, it has been ignorant about what it is doing.
They have lawyers.
They haven't, in any of the statements, made reference to a legal opinion being given to them. Okay. They haven't. I have taken note of that.
And the legal opinion about whether they have the capacity to even sell.
Yes, you may have the capacity, but what's the procedure for sale? You may have the capacity. Okay. Is that okay?
Yes.
What's the procedure for sale? The state can sell its assets. The state has been selling its assets.
Yes.
That's why I drew your attention to how it was done in the past through the Divestiture Implementation Committee legislation.
Right.
So whatever it is, any state asset that you wanted to sell,
yes,
you went through the Divestiture Implementation Committee.
Now,
then it will recommend. Now, we passed the legislation, State Interest and Governance
Authority,
and it is responsible for overseeing all those state assets, institutions, companies that have investments, businesses, and etc. So I was expecting to see that in deciding to sell...
What role did SIGA play?
What role did SIGA play? The Lord Mensa arguments about procurement assessment and analysis, it relates to procurement, your needs assessment. Do I need this thing? Are you getting the situation?
Yes.
But here, all the arguments around, did we need to sell this thing? Is that okay? And that was what I started with. Say, look, we sell one because we want money. In this case, what I heard them saying is that we want efficient management.
Yes.
So if they were procuring, they would have procured services of management. That's what they should have procured.
No, but they also add, they're talking about efficiency, they're talking about profitability, but they're also talking about money to expand other interests in some other businesses. They added up. Of course, it's not been captured in that statement.
And Lord Mensa is saying that you should have told us how more profitable those other businesses are. That you want to sell our asset. All of us pay to SNIT. You want to sell our asset in order to invest in that. So the two investment, which one is comparatively, more profitable? Where? And that's why Lord Mensa brought in the issue of even treasury bills. Say, look, are you going for treasury bills? What's the interest rate? Are you getting the situation? Are you going for the bonds in this environment? Which bonds? Are you getting the situation? So he said, no, look, if you look at given our financial situation, all the other potential investment, none of them is as profitable as the estate business. And hotel is essentially like an estate business. Are you getting the situation? So if you have your assets in your money in hotels and etc., at this stage, you should rather be focused, especially where the evidence is that you are getting 90% room occupancy.
Yes.
90% room occupancy. What is more profitable than that?
Yeah, but we want 100%, Honorable.
Well, are you getting the situation?
Yes.
So
we're getting 90. If we can get 100, why not? We want more money.
Now, why does the name of Bryan come in here? Bryan is my friend. And as a politician and a lawyer, there are two things I will do. One, I will defend the interests of politicians because I'm also a politician.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just selfish. But as a lawyer, and I have my classmates listening, I have my lecturers listening, and I have judges listening, and I want anytime that I walk out of a studio for all these people to respect me because I've been fair, to the facts.
Yeah.
Now, nothing from the beginning, I said it, and I know some people may not like it, I said it, nothing stops a politician from buying anything. No law in this country bars a politician from buying anything.
Okay.
So I can buy if I have the money. Bryan can buy if he has the money. Okujetu Ablakwa can buy if he has the money.
Okay.
Good. Why does Bryan's name come in? One, he has bought a state asset at a time when he is a cabinet minister. I get the situation.
Okay.
And from this discussion, many people have been able to punch holes into the decision to sell.
Okay.
So it's not Bryan that really is the target now. It is SNIT's decision to sell. Why did they decide to sell? Is there really a basis for them selling? Okay? Now, if we cannot establish a real basis for them selling, the second question is, okay, fine. You can't even convince us of the need to sell. But you have sold. At what price did you sell it? How was the asset valued? Because we've seen in the past where state actors have stripped the state of very valuable assets, sold at a price that are ridiculous. So who did the valuation of the hotels? And what are the real values of the hotels? Now, if you haven't convinced us that you did a proper valuation of the hotels, and then we hear that a cabinet minister in the government has purchased the hotels, it leads to the inference that this is a simple act of state capture. If you, Moro, had bought the assets, I can assure you that very few people would have been involved in this discussion.
That's true.
Is that okay?
That's true.
But because it is Bryan, one, we're interested in the decision to sell. And we're saying that, look, I am not convinced that there was a need to sell. Two, at what price did you sell that asset? You have even told me the real price at which you have sold the asset. I see a statement from you in which you're saying that what you need is $2 million to invest in the asset. Is that okay?
Yes.
And I'm asking myself, are you saying that Bryan is the man who can raise $2 million to invest in an asset and you, SNIT, cannot raise $2 million to invest in the same asset? If your problem is management, are you saying that Bryan, who has only one hotel, no matter how big it is, who has operated a hotel for only 5 years, knows how to manage hotels better than you, SNIT, that has been running hotels for more than 20 years, and that you can't find any strategic management company, not even a foreign one, even Ghanaians. If the transaction advisor had said that we are advertising for managers of companies, of hotels, who tells you that Ghanaians don't have companies that are very efficient in managing hotels? I know people who even manage schools.
Honorable, he has a branch in Akosombo, he has a branch in Cape Coast, he has a branch in Adan, he has a branch in Kumasi, he has a branch in Takrady. That's some track record.
The issue is your track record in managing profitably. So my question is, if they were just looking for managers, and he had proven that he's an efficient manager, and they had awarded him a contract to manage, is that okay? Ghanaians wouldn't have been worried because they know that they haven't lost the asset. It's just temporary management that has gone to him. So they will wait and observe and see in 2 years' time how much profit he brings to the entity. Okay. If he doesn't, they take back their asset. But this is a process in which they will permanently lose their assets. Okay? So people shouldn't just take it as a mere discussion. Bryan has a right to buy anything if he has the money to buy it. Yeah. If they have advertised and everybody is tendering, he can also tender, and I will be defending him without even paying me any legal fees of his right to do so. It's the same way that I also have that right, even though I'm a politician and a member of parliament. Okay. But the circumstances, it what makes Ablakwa to say, look, in these circumstances, I believe that something wrong went on. Okay. And that is why he's asking for CHRAG to investigate. But I even think that he's not doing the right thing. I can tell you that I think that Ablakwa is not doing the right thing. He is using the least effective mechanism to deal with this problem.
Which is going to CHRAG?
Which is going to CHRAG. What
else?
Because one, I have been at pains since the beginning of this discussion to question the legality of the entire transaction. So he should go to court and seek a court order to restrain them from even carrying out the transaction on the basis that by law they don't have the power to do it, or that the way that they are doing it by law is not permissible. Is that okay? Number two, everything that Ablakwa has said raises a question of graft, of people colluding to give out a state asset at a value lower than the actual value of the asset.
Yeah, but you can't tell that.
Exactly. You can't tell that. But that is inferred in his arguments. Are you getting the situation?
Yes.
And I'm saying that if that is really your concern, then go to YOCO. Because YOCO is responsible for dealing with situations where public officers collude to deprive the state of its money. Are you getting the situation? Because it is criminal. It is criminal if we're able to establish that the real value of what is the name of one of the hotels? The real value of
La Palm Royal Beach.
La Palm Royal Beach Hotel
is $10 million.
Is $10 million. And then you, a public officer, you manage to go and value it at $6 million. That $4 million, effectively, you are trying to steal public money.
You have to cough it out.
And you will have to cough it out. That is criminal. And you, the person at the end of receiving it, even if we don't have the evidence that you actually colluded, we can infer that benefit was being passed on to you. Is that okay? And especially because you are a cabinet minister. Is that okay?
Let me go to Enoch now.
You then give credence to the allegations that somebody like Ablakwa is making, that you were using your office to benefit.
Enoch, are you aware that SNIT was implacably against the sale of this? And apparently, they've been in talks. In fact, they have 5 reps out of the 12 Board of Trustees representation. And they say that when the matter came up in 2018, they kicked against it in principle. And they talk about how on May Day, in the last 3 May days, they've been seeking audience with the president to meet him and discuss, among other things, this prospective sale. But they've not really been able to seek audience with the president yet. That's what Labour, organized Labour, is saying. Yes, they have 5 reps on the Board of Trustees. In fact, they have been blamed for not being as active enough or as vociferous, that's the word I was looking for, to stop this sale. I don't know what you make of this. You think SNIT could have saved us all this wahala of having this long conversation? We spent almost 2 hours talking about this.
Yeah. Moro, thank you.
And also what Honorable said.
Yes.
Go to court and stop it.
Looking at the whole spectacle of the SNIT asset transfer, i.e. Rock City, Dr. Bryan Acheampong, and the politics of it. We are missing out on specific elements, which are the linchpins of this whole saga. Honorable Ayariga mentioned the legalities of it, whether or not even SNIT, the trust in itself has the right to divest those assets on the basis of law. And I believe we have the Pensions Act, we have the SNIT Act, we have several forms of legislations that governs or regulates this enterprise. As to which of them is in law interpretation, you might say the generalia specialibus non derogant rule. When general provisions and specific provisions meet, the specific legislation prevails.
Okay.
So which of these legislations in these circumstances prevails over this asset divestiture on the matter of the 4 hotels? Now it is 4. We are told that a transaction advisor was appointed. And certainly, once a transaction advisor was appointed, then it means that some due diligence were conducted, some valuations were done, and as far as the occupants of these primary records are concerned, it is SNIT that has the primary records of these valuations and the likes, and the state of affairs with regards to this whole standing. We cannot sit here and say that the valuation reports of these entities has been speculated that probably it was valued far lower than its actual value on the market as far as the share value of those entities are concerned. And thereof, again, we are also looking at, we've talked of the legality, procedural impropriety and the likes. Procurement breaches has been speculated by Honorable Acheampong'S, and all these misrepresentations in the petition to SNIT, to CHRAG. You see, it is an election year. And one thing is that based on the trajectory of how the sequence of events, I believe, I share in the stand of Honorable Ayariga that Honorable Acheampong'S ought not to have even used that procedure, because it even boils down to constitutional interpretation as far as even the provision of Article 70, because the person that you are driving to CHRAG is a member of parliament and a minister of state.
Right.
Who has no even business with this transaction, because the transaction is not even in his name. Okay. It is in the name of Rock City, which is a limited liability entity, which has the power to transact legally, and it is doing so. Although he has a shareholding in that entity. So the competence of Rock City also comes in to manage these assets. And I have maintained that a single entity operated and owned locally, having these assets at Kwewu, and all the infrastructure there is, over 1,200 rooms, with the vision of expanding same to over 10,000 rooms, can't manage these assets that cannot, when you put them together, even their rooms cannot even meet the standard of about 200 rooms.
But the Honorable says you just run one hotel, you can raise
the 2 million. To be efficient.
Of hotel, you can't raise 2 million.
To be efficient. Efficiency. Yes. Does not amount to the number of hotels that you are managing.
That's fine.
It amounts to the efficiency of what? The single one that you are doing. Okay. And if a single person, I don't know the books of Rock City Hotel now, because I am not part of the Central Tender Review Committee to have evaluated the tender of Rock City to be able to know their profile and what their capital asset on all there is. Okay. But judging from their performance outside, looking externally, you can tell that if a local indigenous entrepreneur, a local entity like Rock City Hotels, is doing well in that hospitality industry, when given the opportunity to manage some assets of the state, and this is not the full asset that he's taking over, taking a percentage of the asset of SNIT, and it is not as if it is a collusion, as been speculated. You see, what makes it collusion? What makes it graft? What makes it a conflict of interest? What makes it influence peddling? There is nothing of this sort at all. So we believe that SNIT should go along with all of us, the contributors and the likes, update us all on the matters at hand. I believe what may impede this whole saga is the current petition before CHRAG, because once they are to go before an ombudsman to be able to establish their case, they will not be forthcoming in putting out all their information. That will delay us a bit. But should that obstacle go away, or should we undo that obstacle? I believe SNIT should go along with all of us to be able to establish the transparency of the matter and to be able to move Ghanaians along and make sure that even if you hold 10% shares, and it is profitable, it is valuable, it is better than having 100% shares which has no value of the asset, because running losses and not be able to maintain the facilities and the likes.
Let me give the rest of the 2 minutes to Prof. Prof, I've had the likes of Professor Kojo Yanka, who is the, I think, Vice Chancellor also of the, what's the name of that That university based on Adabraka, I've forgotten the name. His comment on it uses AUCs exactly. I've also heard by Professor Bafo Acheampong'S, who is who's worked with the United Nations, currently in charge of the Kufuor Foundation. They are saying that, look, there's something untidy about this whole transaction, and even morally, they think it's unacceptable for a sitting cabinet minister to be buying state assets. And so they will advise that, look, he should just back off, just let it go. Prof, do you agree with that? Hello, Professor Lord Mentor. Okay, I think we've lost Professor Lord Mentor. Okay.
Hello.
Yep. Prof.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, but I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, Dr.
Yes,
George.
yes, please. I'm here.
Dr. George. That's what I mean. I'd rather ask you that question. I said I've heard the likes of Professor Kojo Yanka of AUCC, who's the Dean. I think it's Chancellor or Vice Chancellor, and also Professor Bafo Acheampong'S, who are of the opinion that, look, when you look at all of this, the untidy nature of this whole transaction, he thinks that, look, Dr. Bryan Acheampong'S should just let it go. I mean, there's something morally not right with the whole thing. So he just let it go. Do you agree with that? Or you think that, look, the man, if he believes he has conviction, he's doing the right thing, his company can go ahead and acquire the 60% stake?
Yes and no. It is both political and also of economist interest. Politically, if he agrees to stay out of the whole transaction, then Honorable Okujotu, who spearheaded the whole effort, will celebrate, and the whole world is going to know that, oh, they were going to steal so and so, and if I had not come to the picture, this is what they were going to do to the state. Okay. And so for that reason, politically, I don't think it is right. If you get out of the whole thing, people are going to think that, yes, something was very wrong, and that is what I was seeking for the whole world to know, and that's why he's running away. So I think that he rather must, if, as Honorable Alaga said, if he has to go to court, if I were him, I rather would want it to go to court, and we are interested. Let it go to court, and whatever the court becomes court's pronouncement on the whole issue will become part of our legal arrangements. Otherwise, in all what I heard today, the discussions that we had from Honorable Ayaga and my other, I've forgotten the other person's name. I saw politics at the center stage. We are in the election year. Everybody would want people to know who can steal more. And that's exactly what I mean. I was, for example, when Honorable Ayaga was talking about the fact that they didn't go through the right procedure, I was waiting for him to tell us what different legal procedures were used in the past by SNIT in offloading this asset. I never heard anything. All I heard was that they didn't go through the right procedure, legal procedure, blah, 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 blah. So all these things are politics. And we did this 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and we are still doing it. I mean, we love politics more than development. I mean, it's all about our parties. So let us say what will make us look good to the public for them to vote for us. After when we come to power, we will have everything, And so until we come together as a country and we kill the political animosity that is growing each day, we may never develop as a country, man.
All right, Doc, thank you very much for your time. It's been Dr. Domfeld, thank you. Have a good day, sir. Just a quick one, yeah.
We used to have, like I said from the beginning, we used to have the Diversity Implementation Committee law. That law made provision for the sale of state assets, divesting the state of those assets. When MPP came, MPP passed the Parliament with the initiative state of the MPP, passed the State Interest and Governance Act 2019. This was 2019. And in that law, they repealed the Diversity Implementation Committee law and repealed the committee, and then established a governing board of SIGA. And so they were now to oversee these state assets. So in the past, I was in cabinet, I was in government, so I know. In the past, when there was approval at cabinet to sell any asset, it was usually on the basis of a recommendation of the Diversity Implementation Committee. And you would go through the entire process of procurement, and then you pay and etc. I'm not saying that nothing wrong went, but at least the procedure was known. And I'm saying that in this instance, do we know if,
how involved was SIGA?
Yeah,
if they were
not just that, because all the correspondences, all the discussions, SNIT doesn't mention them. And I'm saying that SNIT rather says that it procured under the Procurement Act. And so if that is what they did, it is fundamentally wrong. Because I've just read the Procurement Act to you. You can Google it, print a copy and read it. It's clear what the Procurement Act is about. So if you are selling a state asset, like shares in a hotel, it's not through Procurement Act.
I get it. Thank you. Yeah, so
Bryan Acheampong has done nothing legally wrong in this matter. SNIT has done nothing legally wrong until we get the factual details of the whole transaction.
Okay.
Yeah, we have established it because we don't have the rest to conclude here. Oh yes, you only ask questions and we we don't have the full report. You see,
so
you see, we don't have the report of the transaction advisor. Whether they complied, whether SIGA or was you see, without fairness. Just a minute. Without fairness.
Yes.
We have had no report.
Yeah.
Whether the various legal entities enjoined participating with SNIT in the legislations have all been complied with.
Okay.
Because we don't have the transaction report before us.
All right.
So currently we cannot say that something untoward has happened. Something untoward has happened.
We have to go.
So the contributors,
I guess you made your point.
No, contributors should sleep well.
All right, rest assured.
SNIT is investing their proceeds in sound entities
Okay.
that will be able to protect their pensions.
All right.
For that matter, government is also doing all what is humanly
Now let me read this from. This one says, when Rock City owner Bryan Acheampong says he is director, he doesn't take salary, etc. Is he indirectly telling us that he is a politically exposed person? PEP hasn't complied with Registrar General's beneficial ownership requirement. That's what he wants to know. Kokumaoli Nanegbe. And this one here says that greetings to you and your honorable panelists. Honorable lawyer Enoch Afuakwa is the man of the moment in communication. He's a very great guy. And I'll say Amponsem. He sent that message. And this one says, Mama Yarga is raising some really grave constitutional and legal matters, and that's why I like listening to him. He sounds less partisan than the other panelists on some other platforms, and I like to hear things like that. I am an MPP, but I like Honorable Ayaragan the way he goes about his comment. Thank you very much for this show. It's my first time, and I have been sold. Well, thank you very much for being a new member of the community. And this one, finally, there are some other ones, but those ones are too direct. Is this, is that, is that. I don't read those kinds of messages. Let's attack the issues and not the personalities. And this one says, greetings to your panelists. I think they've done a good job. They have really teased out the real issues. I was monitoring the same discussion on some other platform, but I think I like what is happening here. Thank you so very much. Nanaya Acheampong. It spells Akyaw. Nanaya Acheampong. Okay, thank you very much for watching today's edition of Inside Pages. So we want to sincerely apologize. We couldn't discuss the SML matter. We're hoping that the Honorable Mama Yarga next week, that's if it's not taken by some other platform, will join us for us to look at SML. I wish that would have had, would have fleshed a lot of the issues out and we can put things in proper perspective. So Enoch Afuakwa, thank you very much. He's a member of the MPP's communications team and also the member of parliament for Boko Strange. Hard-working man indeed. That's why he's been there. Third term. He's going for his fourth term, hopefully. He's also joined us here, also a private legal practitioner. Honorable Mama Yarga, good. Thank you very much for joining us. Mungode Kwarai. And also Professor Lord Mensah, University of Ghana, Finance Department, also an economist, and also Dr. George Domfair, who is a development economist. My name is Aldo Moro. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.